Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. We need to talk about UFC Oklahoma. Dricus Du Plessis will be facing on former welterweight champion Kamaru Usman, and I believe the public sentiment is out, and it's a lot of people seem to think that Dricus Du Plessis does not have a lot of chance against Kamaru Usman. I feel like this is largely because of their respective last fights. So Dricus Du Plessis' last fight was against Hamza Chimaev, where he got dominated for 24 minutes of the fight, basically. And Kamaru Usman also did something similar by holding down Joaquin Buckley for 3.5 rounds, and then there was some back and forth in the remaining 1.5 rounds, but it's mostly a domination by Usman too. If you look at this broadly, they're both obviously wrestlers who pretty dominant wrestlers, forward pressure wrestlers, and you just connect A to B and say because Hamza Chimaev dominated Dricus Du Plessis, Kamaru Usman will do the same too. But I don't believe that's the case, which largely comes to two main reasons. One of it is a little bit more the physicality and also the attributes of Hamza Chimaev. Like Hamza can match Dricus Du Plessis' physicality. He's just as tall, he's faster, he's technically way superior than Dricus Du Plessis. He can match Dricus' strength, and he's just as long, or if not longer, than Dricus Du Plessis. But on the other hand, Kamaru Usman is actually a couple of inches shorter, I believe, than Dricus. I think the reach is pretty much the same, but I think, is gonna be much, maybe not much would be the case, but he's gonna be definitely undersized when you compare him with Dricus Du Plessis. I think a lot of people are seeing this, but they are not fully thinking that it's gonna matter because the technical side of the things is they believe is like too lopsided when it comes to Dricus Du Plessis. But that's where the type of wrestling and type of grappling is gonna be different between Hamzat and Usman. So in this video, let me explain to you why I believe that Dricus will do much better against Kamaru Usman's type of grappling than he did against Hamza Chimaev. So in this example against Joaquin Buckley, this is the first takedown that he landed. Again, this happened in the first 40 seconds, roughly. But it doesn't necessarily have to be when it comes to Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman will take his time if he thinks that the opportunity is not there. He's also a forward pressure fighter like Hamzat, but he's much more calculated in this. He's gonna wait and set up his jab and then slowly get to his wrestling. So in this example, we have Joaquin Buckley. Kamaru Usman does not initiate. Like by this point, 30 seconds into the fight, Usman has been just jabbing. He's like trying to find his shots. He has feinted a couple of takedowns, but not really committing to anything. And then Joaquin Buckley is like, it's not just for the first round, the whole fight he was panicking so much. So Joaquin Buckley swings a fat left hand. Usman sees it coming. He's like, okay, I'm gonna change my levels. And again, this can happen to anyone. Anyone can miss your power hand, and you might get taken down. You might give your hips in a pretty bad position, whatever. So Joaquin Buckley swings wild, and Usman simply ducks under the left hand and shoots. He's pretty deep on this leg, and he's like reaching over to um, get his hand behind the other leg. But as you can see, Joaquin Buckley did not try to put his hand here, because this is what you want to do. You want to like get the underhook, you want to like dig into it, and if he had done it and sprawled at the same time, he would have escaped out of this. But this motherfucker just like pulls his own hand out. Usman didn't do anything there. It was Buckley who was like, instead of getting the underhook to try to find the underhook, because Usman was pushing him back, he immediately was like trying to gather the balance. He just pulled his hand out, which is pretty dumb. And then he tried to sprawl when it was too late. Usman already had his like hands locked behind him, and then he just simply took him down from here. And this was another thing that Joaquin Buckley did, or should I say absolutely didn't do, which is that I feel like in the fight camp, I don't think he was like wrestling out of bottom position at all. When he got taken down, he had no idea what to do against Usman. It was absolutely terrible. He was like holding guard for some reason instead of like trying to either wrestle into or just like get up. He had no idea what to do. It looked like he was the whole fight camp. He was just like keeping people away because he's so explosive. But when he got actually taken down, he had no idea what to do, and that's why Usman pretty much dominated him. And Buckley could not really do anything from there. Usman, when he takes you down, he's gonna look for like ground and pound. He's not the best at it, but he's pretty decent at it, and it's powerful. But there are a lot of things that you can do to escape um, from the bottom position of Kamaru Usman. He's gonna be heavy. I'm not saying it's easy, but the things that you can do against Usman is much more than what you can do against Hamza Chimaev. Let's look at Hamza Chimaev's wrestling against Dricus Du Plessis. So Hamza Chimaev shoots every fight within the first 10-15 seconds of the fight. Does not matter. He's gonna either set it up with this power hand or he's gonna throw a high kick and then shoot immediately under it. He shoots so fast. He shoots so low, and even when you are as good as Hamza Chimaev, you shoot the first shot like this, it is possible to get out of it. Dricus Du Plessis actually did it, if I remember, in the first rounds and the first 3 rounds. But in the fourth round, he finally was sprawling on him because Hamza is now not as fast. In the fourth round, he finally was sprawling, even though it was not that great of a sprawl, first of all, but he was still able to sprawl it. And if you can see here, Hamza Chimaev still has some control over this leg, but Dricus Du Plessis is aware of it. So he takes his right leg out first, which gives Hamzat a little bit opportunity to try to get this leg, but then he turns around and just runs out of it. But look at Hamza Chimaev's ferocity with this. He's feral. If you are out of position and somewhere near him, he's gonna run at him. And this happens in a lot of fights, if you remember. He did it against Robert Whittaker. He was doing it against Strickland too, I believe. Don't fully remember it. But he's so feral when it comes to his takedowns. He's like a billionaire at an Epstein Island, finding there is a new woman or a child. And he just like he wants to put his hands on around Dricus. Even if you're technically good, like defending takedowns, like Kamaru Usman couldn't stop Hamza Chimaev for the same reason. It's the level of relentlessness and ferocity that Hamza Chimaev brings to the table is really hard to deal with, no matter how good you are. And once he gets the takedown, obviously he is not as good if he gets you on your back. I don't believe Hamza Chimaev is that good when he's on your guard or if he's on your side control. I don't think he's as good as even Kamaru Usman for that matter. But when you are under Hamza Chimaev, the thing that you can do to escape from him is much limited than what you can do against Kamaru Usman. Dricus Du Plessis was not able to do a lot of his own offensive wrestling, and one way to get out of someone's um, grappling is to wrestle back, to try to find a single leg and then like wrestle up to the feet. And this is extremely hard to do against Hamza Chimaev for one specific reason, which is that, as I said, Dricus didn't have a lot of opportunity, but he finally got an opportunity in the third round, at the end of the third round, where Hamzat was like slipping almost, and it was possible for Dricus to find a single leg here and try to wrestle back. And once Hamza Chimaev slipped out, but if you try to wrestle back to Hamza Chimaev when Hamzat is not completely gassed out, he's gonna look for draws immediately. This makes it extremely dangerous to wrestle back to Hamza Chimaev. And Dricus Du Plessis he's a very decent offensive wrestler and offensive grappler, and his top game is really good. He was able to take down Sean Strickland. He took down Sean Strickland multiple times in the fight. And his shot is not as fast as Kamaru Usman or Hamza Chimaev, but it's very decent at it. So this is something that he can do against Kamaru Usman. He can offensively wrestle because he's not going to be worried about the submissions. Kamaru Usman, is going to be hard to take him down, obviously. I don't believe it's going to be easy, but it's going to be a threat that's going to be there. Like, he's going to try to offensively wrestle back to stop the forward pressure or even take him down. I think it's extremely dangerous if Usman gets um, into a bottom position against Dricus Du Plessis. The other stuff is, if you do end up in the bottom, one thing that you can do against Usman, which is that to give your back simply, try to get to the fence, or get to the fence and then give your back, whatever works better. Because Hamza Chimaev had such a hard time finding the hooks. Without the hooks, it's really hard to threaten the submission, and that's why if you watch the fight back, Hamzat was never close to a submission. He was not able to get under Dricus' chin. Um, Even though I think he got it pretty easily against Kamaru Usman, if you remember it, in the first round. And then he had to like slam Hamza Chimaev forward to escape out of it. There is too many things, too many variables to be thinking about against Hamza Chimaev. But Usman, again, not as good as getting his hooks inside. His top pressure is pretty good. He's gonna put you here where you're gonna carry both of your weights on your arm. Really think that Usman is not as good at it when you compare it with Hamza Chimaev. And if you can deal with Hamza Chimaev here, I believe that you can be able to do the same with Kamaru Usman. And not to mention again, which is that Kamaru Usman is not going to be as strong as Hamza Chimaev. There is still causes to worry about when it comes to it. One of the things is that Dricus Du Plessis did a horrible job at fighting hands. He did a horrible job at fighting hands, and then he did a horrible job at finding underhooks. Even when there was an opportunity for it, he was not doing it, and that's really worrisome to me. When it comes to fighting hands, it's kind of ironic that I believe one of the persons that could have like helped Dricus Du Plessis to get really better is unfortunately on Usman's camp, which is Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen is unbelievable when it comes to this position. Corey Sandhagen, Peter Yan, Alex Volkanovski, these people are like, if you try to take them down, they will give up their back because they believe in their submission defense so much that they don't worry about the chokes and stuff. And they will simply give the back and then they will fight hands immediately. That's their first priority. And Corey Sandhagen is amazing at that. And that type of style will work amazing, will do wonder against Kamaru Usman. As I mentioned, he's not really a submission threat, so he's more of like, he's gonna hold you down, and then if he gets you fully on the bottom, he might land some ground and pound, which is terrible, but it's handleable in my opinion. And I really, really hope that Dricus Du Plessis was like drilling this exact thing down. If you get under Kamaru Usman for whatever reason, give up your back and get to the fence. Give up your back and get to the fence. Do not get flattened down, obviously. That's going to be the worst position that you want to be in. So you need to still be careful that Usman doesn't put his hooks and flatten you out. But get to the fence and then like get to your base, start fighting hands. That's extremely important, especially if it's being done by someone who's as big and strong as Dricus Du Plessis. I think on the feet, Dricus is going to be a little bit too much for Usman. He's too goofy. He's like really good with his kicks. Usman is pretty like limited on the feet. He has a decent jab and then a 1-2. Pretty much that's all he does. Everything else, the looping shots that he does, it's absolutely terrible. But it's powerful. I'm not saying it's not powerful. It's just not technically that good. And leaves him open a lot. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for Dricus Du Plessis to take advantage of against Kamaru Usman. If you enjoyed the breakdown, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in another video.